What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Show with another video, and today we're ranking JoJo villains. Now, when it comes to the villains of JoJo, they are more than just obstacles. They're forces of nature, they're serial killers, they have a lot of philosophy, and they end up being some of the most iconic characters in all of anime and manga history. Every villain represents the tone and evolution of their respective part. Now, funny thing to note, I will only be going to Stone Ocean. I have not seen or read anything at this point past Stone Ocean. So we only will be stopping at Stone Ocean. So it's anime only. I'm ranking these anime only. So we got 6 antagonists today. And with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump into it.
Subscribe or bear the hatred of the Uchiha. Wake up to reality.
Starting from the bottom, we have Father Pucci. Now, as the main antagonist of Stone Ocean, he is a cool antagonist, but I just think that the reason why he's at the bottom of the list is because I just didn't feel like I liked him as much as everybody else. This list is gonna be biased. It's gonna happen. Like, his goal was to achieve heaven, or a version of heaven that was based on Dio's ideology. Now, I do think he has an interesting backstory, and it actually gives a lot of context to his goals in life. He even has a fire ability, one of the best abilities on this list. His power to, in a way, manipulate fate, and then ultimately Made in Heaven, which he achieved, makes him one of the most terrifying villains on this list. But while his stand evolution is fascinating to watch, his personal connection to the story never really reached the same. And it's weird because he done a lot. Like, as a villain, he did a lot. Like, he basically, in a sense, kind of won, but not really. It's a weird situation with him. Like, he obviously got outsmarted towards the end, and that's how he was defeated. But in a sense, he actually killed all of the JoJo main crew, even the beloved Jotaro. He definitely deserves some love. He did what he did, and he was a decent villain for the most part. But, like I said, his personal connection never really reached the same, at least for me, leaving him a little lower on the list. Alright, so next we got Cars, the Pillar Man, ultimate life form himself. Cars is the genius. He's the architect behind the Stone Mask. He basically, in a sense, created the vampires in that world, and he ended up transforming into like an ultimate godlike villain with godlike abilities. And I think Cars is such a good villain. In a sense, he's a little weird to me because I didn't want to rank him this low. I feel like if I were to go back and really watch Battle Tendency, I would really realize that Cars is in that show a lot. A lot of the villains in these shows, they kind of slink around a little bit. Like, I feel like Father Pucci was in Stone Ocean quite a bit. Like, pretty much I feel like every other episode. But some of these villains end up being larger than life. They end up being mythic legends in a sense. But Cars, I feel like when he released or whatever, he was a constant threat. Even though he ended up transforming into this ultimate godlike being and godlike evolution and powers and couldn't be defeated and all that, couldn't be killed, it ironically kind of stripped away much of the tension of the show. Like, he was insanely more powerful, but once he transformed, I honestly just stopped caring about him. Ultimately, he was outwitted rather than defeated by strength, and I kind of like that. But that's more of a plus for Joseph's side of things than it is for Cars. Cars is brilliant, but his villain arc feels kind of rushed a little bit compared to later villains. Like, he was cool, but he became the awesome life form and came lame to me, I'm not gonna lie. Now we have number 4, we have Dio Brando. Now I know what you're thinking, but we're talking about the original vampire version from Phantom Blood. As Jonathan Joestar's adopted brother, Dio's cruelty is personal, it's emotional, and it's low-key theatrical. I'm not gonna lie. Dio himself has dropped a lot of memes. People love Dio's character because he just seems insanely evil. Who beats up dogs? Who does that to dogs? What are you doing? He has an insane ambition, you know what I'm saying? And that is to rise above humanity. It made him such a fearsome foe. Even though Cars might have been the creator of this vampire thing, Dio, with his rooted in evil personality, his hatred for Jonathan Joestar, his hunger for power, his transformation into a vampire set the tone for all JoJo villains after him. Now, I will say, compared to a lot of later versions of himself, early Dio kind of feels like more of a straightforward evil force rather than a truly complex villain that he does become later. But I feel like Dio is such a complex villain that he could be split into 2 parts to count as 2 different characters. Like I said, Dio himself is great, but in his first form, he did kind of lack the complexity and stand mastery that would later define him. Iconic, yes, but still raw, still early in the JoJo's evolving door of villains. So with that being said, taking the third spot is King Crimson. Oh man, I said King Crimson, but in reality, it's really Diavolo. But he was so secretive, he really only used his stand. I'm not gonna lie, I really kind of like this character. I like him a lot more than I feel like a lot of people like him. Because I feel like a lot of people would have him lower on the list. But his goal was pure control. He wanted to erase any trace of himself and dominate from the shadows. It's kind of cool because it's like, the reason why I said it like that, like King Crimson is the villain because we see the stand a lot more than we see Diavolo. Like we don't see Diavolo until like the very end, you know? And it's like his stand is always there. He's there himself, but he's just trying to erase any photo of him. He's not trying to be seen just because he's trying to keep his control on everything. And I really just loved how, like, not necessarily goofy he felt, but like how cautious and the lengths that he was trying to go through to actually never be found out. And obviously his power, his ability to erase moments in time is one of the most confusing but OP abilities in this entire series. And when you really start to think about it, it's really easy to figure out, but his unpredictability and sheer power made him kind of unforgettable. So at number 2, we rank Dio. Like the regular Dio, you know, we're talking about the fully evolved stand user version of Dio from Stardust Crusaders. Armed with the world, he's now a true god among men. Dio's time-stopping power was nearly unbeatable. To be honest with you, he really was only beaten due to the most hacks ever of just Joestar just getting his ability and somehow being able to stay alive long enough. Like the plot was plotting right there. But no, like his personal vendetta against the Joestar bloodline is even more ferocious in this version of Dio. This is probably like one of the most iconic characters in anime, and this is the one that comes from JoJo. Like he's pure theatrical evil, you know what I'm saying, that a lot of JoJo fans just can't get enough of. But no, like I said, he was nearly unstoppable. He has a crazy charisma, god complex. He's a legendary villain, and his presence in itself, his ideology made Father Pucci, and his presence in itself has been a large impact across multiple parts of the JoJo story, making him one of the best anime villains of all time. Now finally at number 1, we have Yoshikage Kira. Now this one is my favorite for a lot of reasons. I think that Kira is, to me, the most relatable villain on the list. Besides having like a thirst for power, a thirst for control, the want to erase your own backstory or to remake the world in your image, and he feels like the most down-to-earth villain, and that is scary in a sense because I could see a Kira in real life. Like if I were to really look, there's a lot of Kiras that have been throughout history in real life. He's just simply a serial killer with a power, but that makes him the most deadly of all because he seems like the one that you could actually encounter outside the anime. That's what makes him the most chilling. He simply wanted to live a quiet life, and a lot of people can relate to that. But the problem is he was sick. He's a sick man. He indulged in a really deadly obsession with women's hands. His stand really didn't make it no better. Killer Queen is such a cool stand. It's lethal, it's efficient, just like he is. I feel like Kira's blend of relatability and horror and cunning makes him the most realistic and the scariest villain JoJo has introduced. Like his grounded nature throughout part 4 cement him to me as the greatest villain, at least up until Stone Ocean. There's not really much I can say about Kira. There's a lot I can say about Kira, and his will to survive, his will to keep his normal routine, and his willing to erase anybody in his way. And plus he's busted. Like a lot of the villains in this list are busted. Dio is busted, right? Kira is busted. Diavolo is busted. But he definitely gave the cast a run for their money. But with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe. Now that's my ranking of JoJo villains. I want to know what your villain is your favorite. Drop your rankings below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.